to LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, Doom 4 gets a Vulcan button, but don't get your hopes up just yet, kiddies. And Steam has glitched the review system, but in a good way.
Nvidia has a new SLI bridge, connecting two video cards you'd only ever really need one of. And Humble has a plan. Fortunately, no part of it involves me signing up for Humble Monthly.
Shadowin is coming out on May 17th. It's Trine 3 Zoya, the game without the crappy camera angle, and AMD refreshes its Kaveri APU line with Godavari, lower TDP, and the exact same performance.
I'm Vince Stone here at LGC Actual, switching the bits, doing this nightmare fuel with nothing but 100% Linux sauce. Joining us every week is our tame Canadian podcaster. He's kind of hot.
Oh!
Massive.
Yes, I'm very hot.
I know. And all the way from
I got the vapors.
Pedro
Well,
Martinez.
it's not that hot around here.
You got a jacket on. And joining us
Yeah.
every week, live, Realm Dynamic, helping us form that special bit known as Cocaine Voltron. Before we get started, we'd like to see what's going on in each other's life organs. I'll start because not really a whole lot. I just kind of put time and trudgery into playing Darkest Dungeon, but we'll talk more about that later in the show.
I started watching Black Sails now. That's interesting.
It's racist.
It's Game of Thrones level nudity with pirates, so I'm a fan of it so far.
Yeah, and I'd like to take this particular segment to thank Mr. Matt L. for sending me The Mistress.
You're not going to thank
Yeah.
me for sending you the mistress?
Yeah, no. He specified that he wanted the Areola controller that he provided the Wet Stinkies for to be called The Mistress. So, The Mistress it is. Thank you very much. And I'm starting to think that The Mistress is the best thing to happen to gaming input since SDL2.
Well, let's talk
There's
about
a
our
Stephen Moffat joke there somewhere.
No, seriously, let's talk about our mistress, Jordan, because
Our mistress has consolidated many of her betas into a final form. It's our Steam
Update. Yep. It's the usual roundup of all these Steam betas coming together to form one big, massive, stable-ish Steam clients. Yeah, they all, if you're in the betas, you already have all of this. The major Linux fixes or just the client hang when clicking the middle mouse button on some pages, which actually happened. And an issue where big picture or video playback would not enter full screen properly, which I personally never ran into, but apparently a lot of people did. There was also a bunch of... Yeah, there was also a bunch of stuff for the Steam controller, which came right in the nick of time, because when I turned on the Mistress plugged into the Steam box, it asked me to opt into the beta, and the moment I got this update, I rebooted and it stopped asking me to do that. So hey,
most of the Steam controller stuff was in the mainline Steam client for a while. I think they only ever really recommended that you upgrade to the beta if you want the absolute latest and greatest.
Yeah, and they fixed a couple of crashes with the stable branch now, and one of the things it also brings is the new and improved performance when running Vulcan games, which for Linux means the Talos Principal Beta, with the overlay enabled, so you no longer get that big performance hit.
And one of the final things a lot of people have talked about, they fixed the client UI hang when you click on your middle gerbil button, and I'd never experienced that, but I read a lot of people cheering with joy.
Yeah. I remember hearing about that too, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, it took 3 years!" I'm like, "This was happening."
Right.
Yeah, there was. It's if you're used to your typical browsers and you middle click in order to open a new tab and you forgot that you were in Steam while you did that, it would literally crash the client.
I'm middle click to
for me a couple of times.
I'm a Linux user.
If you middle click a link in some browser in Linux, it still opens up in a new tab.
And let's continue this because customer review system updated to show recent reviews and summaries. A lot of words, a lot of things to read. Basically, let's just summarize this. Now you have your overall review score, then you have recent reviews. And, you know, my first thought about this, correct me if I'm right, is this is going to be hella handy for titles that were in early access because, you know, they eventually got better. Am I being crazy, J-Man?
I mean, yeah, it certainly solves a problem. I'm just curious about the potential for review bombing games. Like if, for whatever reason, the hate train decides to hop on the bandwagon for one particular game, a bunch of recent reviews can sour the score. But we're probably not going to see what the true repercussions of that is until this thing starts being used a lot more. But Pedro, you seem to like the space usage.
Yeah, I did, because Steam, if you go to the Steam store, it's basically like
it's reformatted,
500 pixels down the middle of the screen. Even if you have a teeny tiny 1080p screen like I do, it's 500 pixels down the middle, and it doesn't get you any more used to those big letterboxes down the side. But this one actually makes good use of the horizontal space because it puts the recent reviews on the left in big, bold, and puts the actual reviews that have the highest score on the right, a little faded, but it was a very good use of space. And the Steam reviews have always had issues. They weren't perfect, but you could always get the gist of it by looking at what was the most helpful. But sometimes that would be outdated because the game either left early access and was now a fully fledged thing and was actually decent enough.
There's something I didn't think about. We really should have checked this on games like Storm United and Vendetta and see if their bots are back again.
Right, no, because I was thinking too, like, oh, I'm going to release a new version of the game, and therefore all these old reviews are going to be relegated, and I'm going to have a new score. Because this sounds like something
that's
do.
what Topware did.
Well, Jordan, that would just be cheating.
Ring, ring. Yes.
Ring, ring.
But,
yep. So,
ring.
Counter-Strike is still dealing with some hackers. What?
The phone is ringing. Will you pick it up? Ring, ring.
Ring, ring. No, never mind. In any case, Counter-Strike Global Offensive is still struggling to curb some of the hackers. And the newest update brings some VAC improvements that VAC bans any CSGO player that is found cheating, not just that account, but every single account that has the exact same phone number registered into it. And why would you register your phone? Why would you register your phone number with your Steam account? I mean, why would you do that? Because if you want to trade items like the ones you get in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, you have to have your phone number attached to it. Otherwise, you'll get like a 3-day delay. And if you're not using the mobile authenticator, you'll get a 15-day delay. So,
well, I mean, even more on we're talking about CSGO. I mean, even to get into the beta testing for the prime matchmaking systems they have right now, you got to give Brother Steam those digits, son.
Yep. I see one small issue with this, though. Mm-hmm. Do young children still use landlines? Because I know all these kids have cell phones these days, but I'm thinking maybe some parent's CSGO account might get gimped because their little baby is a cheating fuck. I mean,
and that gives you a fine opportunity to educate your kids. As Osiris, the PC pimp friend of ours, will regularly say, "You got to hit your kids," and he'll do it when the little guy comes in on D&D night. It's just like, "Dad, I want a pickle." Slap. Brilliant, love it.
LGCQs, ladies and gentlemen.
He's a model parent.
All right. Well, this is another hack. I am the hacker of T-March 2322's account. Steam support, you need to fix this. All right. This is just a wall of text about allegedly how T-Mart's account got hacked. And this guy's like, well, this is how I hacked his account. Therefore, you should reinstate his account. At first, I was like, Jordan, doesn't that seem a little vague on the details?
It really does. There's a lot of this. I did this thing, which I'm not going to tell you what it was. And then I did this thing, which is super secret. And I'm not going to expand on it and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of it under the guise of, oh, well, I don't want you to be able to reproduce this. But at the same time, he's making a very incredulous claim and not really providing any evidence. And then the fine folks at Reddit, who have nothing but time on their hands, have been playing Encyclopedia Brown with this. They've pointed out that on the actual Reddit post where the guy was complaining that his account got hacked, the formatting and language in the report that he sent is very, very similar to this particular post. In addition, if you actually look at the guy's account that was supposedly stolen, it was a 0-level account with nothing on there. There's some theories going on as to what the exact nature of this blog post is.
Well, I think ultimately, I mean, if you distill what it's saying, tell me what you think, Pedro, is this pretty much reeks of the asshat who got his account banned for being a fuckwit, trying to get his account unbanned, thinking he's clever, saying that it was hacked?
Yeah. Basically because he bought someone else's account, an old account that happened to have some pricey CSGO skins attached to it. And he bought that account, and now it's money down the drain because Valve realized that it was an account that was being sold, as it were, and they nuked it. So yeah, no. Sorry.
Moral of the story: don't sell accounts unless you really want to give someone, or someone's really asking for that copy of Earth 2190, whatever the fuck it was.
Earth year 2066.
That's the one. But it's time to go down. This is Descent Underground. They have a new build. It's called Lavrentiev. It's build number 2180. And they have quite a few things in these patch notes. There's bot AI now. There's a fusion cannon. And walls will actually block missiles, which is something that I was surprised wasn't actually a feature, but apparently walls were not actually blocking missiles. There are still a few issues here. Linux gamers who have bought Descent Underground, maybe on that Indiegogo or Humble, whatever bundle, where you got that game for $1. If you want to play this with your Logitech joystick or your Thrustmaster Giggity, it's probably not going to be detected. And one thing stuck out to me in the patch notes, where they upgraded to the latest, or to a newer version of Unreal Engine with improved DX12 support and metal rendering. To which I say, where's the Vulcan, man? Just go with it. Do it. We're going to talk about something a little later with Vulcan that looks amazing. That's
they'll definitely get the Vulcan button in there when there's an actual Vulcan button in there. But Descent, the 6 Degrees of Freedom, the spiritual successor to Descent. Not made by the same guys. But it's a thing running on Unreal Engine 4. Runs pretty good. I haven't tried the latest update, but... yeah,
and they're always taking bug reports too. So spin this up.
I got the update. It was a 1.1 gigabyte update, and I went to see what it was about. And then when I came to the show notes, it was already here. So yeah, I do like one of the things that they have in the release notes is launching, installing, and platforms. Under Linux, the game client fails to launch from the launcher. As a workaround, run the launcher from a specific directory in the command line. This is their fix. cd descent/binary/linux, and then dot dot slash dot dot slash dot dot forward slash dot dot forward slash dot dot forward slash descent. Yep, that's their fix.
Up next, there's a new game built on the Trine 3 engine, but can it full screen?
It's Shadowin. We will see. We'll have to see by the time it comes out. But yeah, it's basically Zoya the game with a very super hot style of mechanic in where the time only moves if you move or if you hold down the shift key. But they say it's coming out on May 17th for every platform.
Remember, kids, May
Linux.
equals November.
Yeah. And the demo, for the most part, I played it both on this box and on the Steam box, and it works really well. And unlike Trine 3, it's a third-person over-the-head camera point of view instead of that crappy fixed perspective with 3D gameplay. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, you were definitely saying in the notes, and it's like, whoa, well, there was quite that delay with Trine 3 coming to Linux.
Was.
But, this is using the Trine 3 engine with camera controls. So I think we should see day one launch. They are saying, we should point out, the launch price will be $14.55, random number, but the regular price...
Yeah, it was based on how many people downloaded their demo.
Some gamification. So what do you have any thoughts about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious because Trine 3 just doesn't like to work at UHD or even if you want a full screen at a 1080p.
What do you
just
mean
stays in a
doesn't like
window.
to
And
work?
when
It
I played the
doesn't have
Shadowin
the
demo,
option, man.
oh man, yeah. I can just like go and use X-Render to resize my monitor because that's the thing I want to do every single fucking time. No, but the Shadowin demo behaved very similarly to Trine 3, so unless they fix that, I don't think we're going to be seeing any improvement on that front. And I do like Pedro mentioned, it has a very super hot style of gameplay, which I think is actually has some really nice synergy with the stealth game. I'm interested to see how that turns out. What I care less about is the constant fucking escort mission that this game posits, where you have to like protect this little girl from seeing shit, or she can't get caught. That instantly kills my boner for anything this game has. I hate escort quests; they're the worst.
Well, there's something I don't hate, and that's golf. Because Jack.
Wait! Blood Bone Storm?
No,
we're getting Bone Storm on Linux.
Fighting Challenge under a different name. Jack Nicklaus Perfect Golf is the next generation India. It's a damn golf game. Okay, brilliant. Currently mixed reviews at the low price of $34.99. One thing I am interested in is it has cross-platform multiplayer. Why? But, you know, it's definitely there. But, Jordan, the system requirements are a bit odd.
I mean, you really just need an Ubuntu CD to run this. You don't even need to download the game or have a hard drive and just, like, smack it on your monitor and it'll work. Yeah, but that price apparently, because you have to register with a third-party online service that sells some DLC that never really made any money for these guys. Because if you want like pro courses or like actual courses that you could play in the game, you need to make with the cash.
For $34.99, I think the best golfing game on Linux, Pedro, is the one where you get to kill zombies and ghosts.
Oh yeah, one.
That one actually has a lot of gameplay and a lot of different genres built into one. That's actually an interesting game.
You actually have to kill zombies by playing golf in that, which is kind of interesting.
Yep. And this one, well, let's just say this week I paid $34.99 for a Hyper 212X heatsink, and I think that was money better spent than this game.
Well, it comes with a free bag of Doritos, right? So it's pretty good.
And some Bud Light.
It's time to get massively online multiplayer or something. This is Ryom.
Really?
Yeah, Ryom, a game available on Steam. It's actually an open source MMO, so that's kind of neat. I was actually thinking a little earlier that Steam would be actually a great way to distribute your open source games because you don't have to deal with your operating system's packaging. Plus, Steam runtime is pretty lowest common denominator. But it very much looks like World of Warcraft. They don't actually show you any gameplay video on
looks
the
like World of Warcraft in
gameplay footage.
1999. It looks more like EverQuest.
Oh no, it definitely gives KOTOR 2 a run for its money in terms of graphics, right? But yeah, I looked up some gameplay footage on YouTube for this game. And it really looks like WoW. Like they straight up stole some fonts there too. But I mean, it's priced to sell it free, and we really don't have a lot of MMOs under Linux. So if this is your bag,
I mean, we genuinely don't. I mean, Ryom's been around forever. It's one of the first games that we ever covered. I mean, Jordan's memory's failing.
Oh yeah, way back when.
Way back. Because they made a Linux port, then they went back. I mean, this was originally, pay to play, then it went completely free, and now it's free to cock about in a sandbox until you give them money. Pedro, are you excited?
No, not really, because I saw the show once. He was like, oh, hey, MMO. Well, okay, it looks like the original Guild Wars with the DirectX 8 renderer, but fine, whatever, it's free, let's give it a try. So it prompted me for my username and password, and I'm like, usual credentials? Oh, I already have an account for this one. Okay. And I have a level 30 magician character. Why? When did this happen?
You got drunk, Pedro, as you normally do.
This game is completely forgettable because I have no idea when exactly I played it or what the hell happened.
It's genuinely old enough. It's genuinely old enough to where I remember when we first launched it going, this is amazing. We've never seen anything like this on Linux. And you go back and look at it, you're like, kind of like Strike Suit Z, and you're like, whoa, all right, rose-colored glasses.
Oh yeah, that one game where you have to switch controllers to actually play the game. But coming up next, Zen is not here. We're gonna give you what AMD is hoping to tide you over with. It's not pretty.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, stick around. We'll get to the news soon enough. But first, we have a very special thanks to give out this week.
We do. There are some lovely people who help us out every week, helping us bring the show straight from our mouth organs to your face holes. And those are the lovely people who go to linuxgamecast.com/support the chosen to give us wonderful, wonderful financial assistance. We got some Amazon affiliate links. We got some PayPal buttons. It's brilliant. But the bee's knees, the real stars of the show are the guys who go over to patreon.com/LinuxGameCast and donate every week. We just closed out the month. We're at 76 Patreons. Nathan V is the latest patron, and I've been given a cue card to read that says that if you donate 5 cents a show, just 5, it's like nothing, 20 cents a month, you get access to 68 patron-only posts, and that number is growing. This is all our Google Feuds.
Are you trying to imply that you actually get value and we give people extra stuff?
Well, listen, you have to buy our DLC first, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's a 5-cent DLC, so you're not exactly breaking the bank.
But yeah, no, you get access to all of our Google Feuds, our Cards Against Humanity streams. You get access to some of the players' videos a little early if you're a fan of the Trines or the Portals or the Left for Brads, or if we can get to $200 a month, you get to watch me suffer through Serious Sam 3, you guys. It's going to be fun.
That's going to be fun.
No, seriously, that'll just make me happy. But one thing, Patreon or not, because I said this thing and a buddy of mine is like, oh yeah, this month is where a lot of your credit cards and debit cards expire. I'm not caring about Patreon right now. Check your cards regardless, everyone, in the sound of my voice organ, because you might have auto pay bills or something like that. I don't want you to miss any of that. Like I said, nothing about the Patreons, but yeah, do check that if you are Patreon, but yeah, still just check that period, because I think Pedro even has like, oh, right.
Yeah, I actually checked my debit card when we were talking during Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, and yeah, it expires in May.
Weekly Daily Wednesdays?
2018, but
what is that?
That's just like this really crappy spinoff. It's the Stargate Atlantis to our Linux Gamecast. SG1.
In a sense, yes, very accurate. But yeah, it's that midweek show that we do to catch up on all the Linuxy things. There's definitely a whole hell of a lot less fucking cuss words. But yeah, it's...
there's also 100% more French people.
Yes.
You see, ultimately, I just came up with that rule. I mean, it's extremely family friendly. I mean, we got to work clean, because I have to work clean every Saturday, and I just watching Pedro and Frenchie, like it is beyond entertaining. I mean,
it's why
I derive joy from it. But that's enough. We're horrible at plugging ourselves. Let's get into the news.
Yes,
you're harsh on my Zen thing,
with
man.
Some drivers into the news, but we do start with AMD refreshing the APU line. Namely, they're not calling it Kaveri anymore, they're calling it Godavari. The A10 7860K and the A8 7670K.
Oh my God, new coolers.
And they're
Wraith, man. It sucks your life out.
Speaking of Atlantis.
Yeah, they're both 3.6 gigahertz base clock with up to 3.9 gigahertz turbo, both of those. And if you're trying to, or if you're considering buying an APU to use under Linux, keep in mind that these do not have Vulkan support. And just in case Monster Camera tries to play the White Knight for AMD again, there's a link to the Kronos group in the show notes. Go there. Cameron.
Yeah, their OpenGL support isn't fantastic either, considering they're using the latest gen. Even on the open source drivers, the AMD GPU, it requires some doing to get stuff up and running. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, these are actually kind of great if you're trying to build the low power budget system. Pedro seems to think that if you can't afford a dedicated video card, you should still put yourself in extreme debt to afford a computer.
Well, I don't know. I mean, reading the show notes, you two were on a slap fight. Like, no, this is gonna be better. It's like Pedro's like, no, buy a refurbished 750 Ti.
Let's considering our experience with AMD processors under Linux, and we're not even talking about the GPUs at this point. It's like, sure, the 7870K, which was the old Kaveri part, was a 95 watt part, and the new one's only 65 watt, and the performance is about on par between the two. Yeah. But under Linux, with some games, you're still better off at $150. You're better off with an Intel Skylake i3 and a dedicated GPU to pair it off with.
Unless you're really strapped for that $150, because you could apparently in Europe land these magical AMD CPUs are dirt cheap, but they're still about $100 in Canada land.
Yeah,
and if you're gonna pair that with the dedicated GPU, even like a refurb 750 Ti, the cheapest you're getting that at is $125, which is still a lot more expensive than the $150 APU. Plus, actually, Pedro, I did like your suggestion about holding out for Maxwell, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Well, not Maxwell, but Pascal. Yes, Pascal. You should totally hold out for Pascal and even Polaris if you're considering an APU or a CPU at this point, because it will probably.
But then what you can do, Pedro, is buy the APU now, suffer a little through the AMD graphics, and then take that money you would have spent on that 750 Ti and maybe get the better 10 series with the extra juice.
The cheapest one is still 370 something bucks.
Well, yes, the one thing I like about Pascal is when it goes turbo, and that's what Nvidia did to our face.
Oh yeah, no, it's the 1080. It's the first Nvidia card that can actually handle 1080p under Linux. Oh my god, it's brilliant. It's got 256 or 2,562 CUDA cores. It runs on like a single 8-pin fucking PCI power port. It's brilliant. It has 6 gigs of RAM. Sorry, 5.5 gigs of RAM.
There you go.
Or 6.5 gigs of RAM. But it's brilliant. We haven't had a firm release date yet. There's no the price has been announced. What was it, Ben?
What was that?
What was the price announced?
May 27th.
I think the ultimate price is what they were talking about is you can get like the regular one for under $400.
$599.
Yeah, but if you want the ones that are binned really good that you can overclock the Jabezus out of, yeah, you're going to be looking at $599 for that deal.
That's still pretty good though, considering.
It's
like the max resolution on there is
1080.
What I'm looking at, though, I mean, the first and foremost, I think a big takeaway that a lot of people are just glossing over is, this thing, it's faster than Titan X. Now, you'll notice when they show the graph, they don't show 980 Ti, which can, in some cases, be faster than a Titan X. However, skip over that, because the important thing is it has only one 8-pin power adapter that you need to run it. So that makes me think that it would be entirely possible to make a PCIe powered like 950 Ti that will only be slightly faster than a Titan X. Am I crazy?
I know they would be really dumb to not do that, because the 950 was a complete and utter waste of time after the 750 Ti, which was a PCI powered 980. I would love to see some sort of Pascal based, like something PCI powered that's about as powerful as a 670 superclocked that you just pop in your motherboard and it works. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, no, the new one looks pretty good. We're talking 2560 CUDA cores, a base clock for the GPU of 1607 megahertz with 1733 in boost. For comparison, my GTX 970 Strix has a 1113 megahertz base clock and 1455 megahertz boost. It also comes with 8 gigabytes GDDR5X memory at 320 gigabytes per second.
I don't care, Pedro. AMD has HBM memory.
We will probably see HBM memory in some of the TI versions of these, but yeah, we're talking about something that can
or the Titan version of the 1080.
Yeah, we're talking about something that can outperform the Titan X, which is currently
The Titan version of the 1080. What's it going to be called? The Nvidia Drop Spike.
It's the Titan 80, man. Come on, keep up.
For
No,
180 watts.
Here's the thing that really caught my attention, though, is the max resolution on there is fucking 8K. Because I really need another couple 4K monitors on them. No, bad, Jordan. No, put the credit card down. Bad.
Yeah, I mean, for $600 for the base version and $700 for the what do they call it? The Founders Edition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's AMD is, the ball is in their court, like Josh Walrath said on Twitter. But yeah, I'm kind of already dressed up for the funeral.
I don't know, man. We get selected hate because we're not AMD fanboys. We're not Nvidia fanboys. But, we do like to use what works. And we know this is going to launch day one with Linux drivers, Vulkan support.
They have FreeBSD drivers, apparently. So,
well, they do have to power the PS4 somehow.
With that AMD GPU built by Nvidia, yeah. But it's out.
No,
man. It's coming.
It's
coming. It's coming.
Mighty Number 9 goes gold, allegedly. I say allegedly because this is take 3. The people behind, you might remember Rockman, Mega Man.
Yeah. It's the KG Inafune. That's the guy.
They've tried a couple of times to get this out the door. It's supposed to have been out the door last year and earlier this year. And, well, they're super serial this time about actually getting it out and released. They did say that they're going to have to delay the 3DS version and some other bits, but what was the actual release date on this? June 21st, 2016. June 24th. 21st, yeah.
24th worldwide, 21st for North America. But this was the result of like some sort of 5-year-old Kickstarter, wasn't it? This was one of the first games that ever had like a major Kickstarter, because Capcom has decided to just make Street Fighter games over and over and over again. And people wanted a Mega Man game, so the original Mega Man creator said, "I'm make my own game," and then it never came out. But apparently, it's coming out soon.
Well, I mean, I'm just like Pedro, man. I just can't wait. My excitement for this game is palpable.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, you can actually feel it. Wait, no. You see, my interest for this game,
I can feel them vibrating. Oh wait, that's something else. Never mind.
Yeah, my interest for this game pretty much disappeared by this point. It suffers from the exact same issue that games like the Banner Saga and Terraria, those games did when they totally promised a Linux port. It's coming, you guys, and then it took like 3 years to actually materialize. So, no. No. So, let's talk about some clever girls and some
Listen, Pedro, I'm honestly surprised that Adam Reed gave someone rights to make an Archer game. I'm excited.
Look, it's like Meowschwitz in that company nowadays. Arcen Games, as it is, and it is actually pronounced Arcen Games. I learned that a couple of days back. But yeah, it's the guys that made Bionic Dues and Starward Rogue. They hit a pretty rough patch a while back. Yeah, they hit a pretty rough patch a while back, and they had to can most of their programming team. But it's good to see that the core members of the team are still hammering away at making games, and they've put out a new video for Raptor. I'm guessing that's a working title.
Maybe it's a working title. I mean, ultimately, I think, Jordan, it's just nice to see this lot actually branching out from the top down. Let's reuse all the assets.
They had that shared universe between all their other games, right? Because they were really cheap and wanted to reuse all their art assets.
You mean the color palette? Yes.
No, they got some mileage out of that Hydra graphic because it was like the main character in about 3 or 4 different games.
Yeah, it was the space sort of half turn-based space game that I can't remember the name of. And then they reused it for Starward Rogue, and they reused a lot of the Bionic Dues assets for Starward Rogue as well. But yeah, it's good to see that they're actually trying to do something different this time, and I hope it turns out good because I like their games. So good on them.
Speaking of games,
Oh yes. Speaking of games, how many Humble games do you actually own?
billions.
Do you just want to?
You want to
No,
play? How many Humble
legitimately
games have
asking.
you
Give
not
me a ballpark.
redeemed? Because I got like 7 pages of just Linux games.
Oh yeah, no. You get like the keys that you can reuse because you bought the bundle that added that game that you already owned.
Right.
But sometimes you just want to get that over and over and over again, and then you can subscribe to Humble Monthly.
Okay.
They're actually, it looks like they're planning on adding some additional payment options. You can get like year-long subscriptions and whatnot for a discounted price.
Well, you don't know.
That's all well
this
and good.
comes from
How about you make with some Linux games? that we
994.
don't
I mean,
know?
you get your monthly plan, but a new thing showed up for somebody who actually subscribed to this. You have an option to change your plan. I mean, it's completely speculation sauce what we're doing right now, but maybe they'll offer something like subscribe for 6 months and get 10% off. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe. I don't see how this is possibly worth it though, right? Maybe if you're on Windows and then there's enough games in the rotation that you'll usually get stuff that you don't actually own.
Well, I mean, come on. Let's be honest. We would have all, if we'd known for a fact that Mad Max was actually eventually ever going as a Warner Brothers title, so we don't know, was going to make it. That was in this month, so I was like, I would have kicked him. I'm 12 quid.
Maybe, and there are people in the Reddit thread who are talking about how you can basically use this to get games for cheap by checking the monthly preview, and then if it's a game you don't own, cancel, and if it's a game you do own, keep on going. So that's definitely a thing. I honestly don't see Humble Monthly lasting for another couple of years because there's no demand for it. But then I want some muffins.
No, you want a Vulcan button. Empty posted this in Chat Realm static over at LinuxGameCast.com. I've heard of it. Never been there myself, but he writes, this gives me hope. I know it shouldn't, but somewhere deep down inside, I feel a little sparkle. Giggity. Doom running on a GTX 1080 with the Vulcan API, to which I reply, why do you tease us like this?
It looks amazing though, like smooth as balls, like consistent 60 FPS, and then they're like, yeah, no, we're gonna release the frame counter, and
then they cranked it up, and this thing's running on full yellow swag plus Dorito, well over 100, and just rocking it. But that's why I said you shouldn't get your hopes up. Why? Now, if it was just id. There could have been a chance because we live in this crazy moon universe. Because I remember back in 99, 2000, we were talking before we started the show. I was talking to Pedro about, I was like, it wasn't like the same day release, I don't think, but I think like within a week, at least within a month, Quake 3 Arena, the original beta for that came out for Linux as well. Because I remember playing it with my flatmates at uni, and we had a great time with that. Now, fast forward to 2016, this is going to be like the first Doom game to not have Linux support. Yes, I know it runs under Wine. That's a thing. But considering this engine, what is it, ID Tech 6, I mean, it's built from the ground up with OpenGL, so it's only a minor shock. And it makes you think, Jordan, porting this to Linux would be flying spaghetti monster damn trivial, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
Somebody
fuck Linux.
Bought it, and they're called Bethesda, and they love paintings.
Fuck Linux and its stupid monkey face. But there is the one tiny little ray of hope at the end of the tunnel that is actually just the train of crushing defeat approaching you.
Yeah.
But before that happens, there's that small glimmer of hope that maybe if Valve ever wants to try pushing the Steam machines again, maybe when the PlayStation 4.5 comes out, and they're like, hey, here's a console that you don't have to replace every fucking 2 years. That maybe Valve will pay Bethesda a ton of money, and we might get this. Might, but probably not.
Valve and Bethesda have been in cahoots before. You may have heard something about paid mods on Steam.
It's almost as if I was referencing that, Pedro.
Yeah, for an entire weekend, and then they canned it. I wonder why. But yeah, it's very, very unlikely that this game will ever come to Linux natively. Sure, you can play it in wine, but remember, you only get 5 heathen purchases before we start calling you a filthy.
Or you can subscribe to Humble Monthly and sidestep that entire thing.
I know, but I think the big thing we need to take away from this is I think it's very interesting that id decided to go with Vulkan. It's like, but DX12's the future, bruh. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this from developers, because one thing we talked about maybe a month ago is developers were talking about the advantages of Vulkan over DX12, mainly because it runs on Windows 7. And you can get all the neat sauce that, because Vulkan and DX12 is basically on parity with each other. I'm oversimplifying it, so quit typing. No hate mail from that. But
send all your hate mail to Liam Gaming on Linux.
Then you're definitely going to be stuck with, if you do something in DX12, it's going to run on Windows 10, which they're about to get rid of the nag screen because it's going to become like 120 wet stinky caches in order to buy it. And they count their install base as all the Xbox Ones too. They put that in there too, so that's why it has such a high number. Now, if I'm a developer and I'm looking at that, I'm like, well, if I do Vulkan, all the Windows Pro gamers, the real ones that know what they're doing, they run 3 antiviruses and they've edited a registry once. They're going to stick with Windows 7 and they're going to be like, all right, Vulkan support. And like, we can put that on there. Hell, we can do a mobile port. We can put it on the PlayStation 4.5. And the only dickery I can see Microsoft doing, because Microsoft doesn't know how to deal with competition because they've not had competition in so long, I can only see Microsoft doing a little bit of dickery going, you can only use DX12 on the Xbox One, which I think will be to their detriment.
I think they're actually just going to... Listen. Best case scenario, they open source DirectX 12 and then shit just explodes.
Like I said, man, they're not used to... They don't know how to deal with competition. They haven't... They
really don't, and they've already released 2 Linux distributions now. trying to figure out shit, but that's more for Weekly Daily Wednesday. Coming up next, we show the chairs the darkest parts of our souls, and they send us to the darkest dungeon. Darkness imprisoning me, all that I see, absolute horror, I cannot live. Well, I can absolutely die, as we all can, in Darkest Dungeon by Red Hook Studios, ported to the Linuxes by Mr. Aaron Melcher, aka Knockout Games, on a homebrewed engine developed by Kelvin McDowell. Not, I don't know. I had a brain fart about Roddy McDowell. Anyways, you can pick it up for around 22 to 27 wet stinky filth dollars. What is it? Darkest Dungeon is a challenging gothic roguelike turn-based RPG about psychological stress of adventuring. Recruit, train, and lead a team of flawed heroes against the unmanageable horrors, stress, famine, disease, and the ever-encroaching dark. The dev did send us some keys to that. Good on them for that. But before we kick into the CHAIRQUISITION, you might recall when we were throwing chairs at Tomb Raider last week, we kind of put out a little contest. If you if you create a tweet with the hashtag LGC Cares or Google Plus post or Facebook post, you would be entered in a raffle to see who would win. And this is not an actual case of nepotism. We will provide the screenshot of the Google random number generator output. But Mr. Martin Lindpress of Ubuntu Mate has won some Tomb Raider keys. And well, let's kick off the CHAIRQUISITION. 1 chair means that it's garbage, 2 chairs means that it's meh, 3 chairs means that it's okay, it's pretty good, and 4 chairs means that it's amazing. You also got a categories of Doom mixed with the working shiny sounds controls and fun, and there was fun to be had, at least for me. So let's kick this off. Then did it make with the working?
Over here on the Ubuntu 1404 LTS, 8150 CPU powered 980 displayed with the 4K monitors. It's the bee's knees. It absolutely did run. It didn't have any issues, and unlike other games that we've recently played, this thing is multi-threaded like a mofo, and that's kind of important on the AMDs. All the 8 cores were just barely humming along, maintaining a solid 60 FERPs at 1080 or at 2160 UHD. But there has been a known map bug, and when I say map bug, it's not going to kill your experience unless your name rhymes with Pedro. But what will happen occasionally, and I did run into this, is you do have your little map between the dungeons, and sometimes it will just blank out on you. Then you cannot progress. You cannot select anything, so you have to stop the game and restart it and pick it up from there. Too much of an inconvenience not to ding at a chair, but yeah, I'm going to give it 3. I mean, it did a good job. Good job.
On Fedora 22 64-bit and 23 64-bit with alternatively the Intel i7 6700K, the GTX 980, or the A10 5800K with the GTX 750 Ti. This thing ran very, very well. I was running into that map bug while this thing was in beta, but ever since it released proper, I did not run into it. So I cannot find any fault with the working. I'll give it 4 cheers.
Yeah, no, for me, the map bug is still very much happening. It literally stops your progress. So on the Amiga with the FX8370E overclocked at 4.2 gigahertz and the GTX 970 Strix, it did hold the very smooth 60. It didn't dip a single time that I could notice. So it gets 3 chairs.
All right, so that's 3 chairs to mix with the working. Up next is the shiny and the sounds. Ben.
Short and sweet, let's do this. I mean, if you don't dig the hand-drawn art style, then you, madam, or possibly sir, have a malfunction. Seriously, I mean, it's gorgeous and delightfully quirky. Just good to look at. Visually, I really enjoyed this game. Now, when it comes to the soundtrack, you know, it's spot on. The voice work, it's passable. It's not bad. It's not great. And the only kind of grindy thing about that is it's a touch repetitive listening to the same things over and over and over. But I never really played this using my headset. So, you know, I am kind of grading this directly. Now, there is a DLC for the soundtrack and a lot of people are really digging it. I didn't hate it. I thought it worked. It fit the theme. But personally, you know, Slayer, let's just get that business done. Nothing to complain about. Solid 4 cheers.
Yeah, I really do like the art style. It does a good job of remaining cartoony or comic booky while still like accurately capturing a like gritty medieval horror setting. The sound design is your standard ominous water bell, ooky spooky stuff, and it's appropriate. It doesn't detract anything. It really adds to the just the feel of being in this sort of medieval horror movie. And what little voice acting in there is competently done. I'm not going to give it 4 chairs. I do like the art style, but it's not like face-meltingly amazing a la Distance or Hyperlight Drifter or something like that. So it doesn't quite get 4 chairs, but it does get a solid 3.
Yeah, the heavily stylized characters, the graphics, they make the characters look like cardboard cutouts, but, and this is a nice round but, the animation and the rest of the visual aesthetics fit the design choice perfectly. Coherence is often overlooked in indie games nowadays, but Darkest Dungeon's graphics actually deliver in spades. The audio is really well done too. The ambient audio and the subtle background music will smack you in the ear hole with an amazing dose of atmosphere. And the narrator, wow. There should be a rule that if you're going to have a narrator in your game, it should at least be as competent as Bastion's. The narrator in Darkest Dungeon takes Bastion's influence and replaces all the humor with morbidity and cryptic compliments. Congratulations to Red Hook Studios, 4 chairs.
All right, that's 3 chairs for Shiny and the Sounds. Up next is the control. Then
short and sweet, make it simple. Your standard WAS controls are going to work. You will need to, you know, pick up your gerbil, shake it around, click on things every now and again. I'm guessing you could probably pull everything off with a keyboard if you want to do that. One thing I was thinking, which Paige will actually address, it's got to be neat if you can play it with a controller. And there's a particular type of controller that seems that this is going to work with. However, the way I experienced this was right in front of the computer. So, you know, with the keyboard and gerbil combination, there's nothing really to fault with. I think Jordan might touch on like the map system. One thing I did find a little bit annoying, but it wasn't annoying enough because if you're patient, you know, I'm trying to do things quick. And I was like, speed freak. If you wait, it'll switch back from the map to the actual inventory screen, which is still to 4 hours I put into it. kind of irritates me, but not enough to ding at a chair. I mean, everything works. So, yeah, 4 chairs.
Yeah. I mean, really, I actually tried playing it a bit with the Steam controller as well, but because I wanted to rename my characters to people I know, like people in Chat Realm or these idiots or some of my IRL friends. Oh, am I kidding? I don't have IRL friends. I stuck with the keyboard just so I could type stuff out easily. But if I did have one gripe with the UI, it's that like the inventory and map sort of have like this shared tab interface. And I find it really annoying when I'm trying to like juggle through inventories and manage torches and rations and bandages and stuff. But I also kind of want to see what's ahead in case I get a scout. So it's not enough to ding at a chair. It's annoying. It's grating, but I'll give it 4 chairs for control. It works perfectly.
Yeah, you click on things and things react as though they were clicked on. The UI seems to have been designed for tablets in the way that everything is large and accommodating for fat fingers smacking on a screen. Still, even if it's a little too cramped,
that's a very evocative image, Pedro.
Yeah. Still, even if it's a little too cramped, it works for what it is. Also, it's the thing that Ven hinted at. The devs actually have an official Steam controller layout for this game, which kind of caught me off guard because I saw the game show up on the Steam box because I had this machine turned on as well. It's like, oh, okay, let's see if this works with a Steam controller. All right, so I have to pick a layout. Oh, there's an official layout, is there? All right, okay. On my end, I just had to remap the right areola to the left one, because I'm left-handed, go figure. But yeah, no, absolutely no complaints. 4 chairs.
All right, that's 4 chairs for controls. And finally, fun. Ben, did you have fun?
Well, there was a time when I would protest because this is turn-based strategy. It is. It just is. And there was, at this point, I get outvoted. So when these 2 yahoos are like, we're playing this, it's like, fine. I'm a defeated man. So I was like, I'm just going to play it. And I put 4 hours into it. And my first question that I did pose was, is getting skull-fucked by the game part of the fun, question mark?
Yes.
Yes.
Apparently, Jordan.
Welcome to Call of Cthulhu.
But hell, I grew up in the days of Nintendo Hard, but Darkest Dungeon is not hard, man. Nay. It's just random in a smitey, dickish sort of way, which is the worst kind. Basically, Darkest Dungeons, it's going to tell you to pay attention, learn your new strategies, and mix all that nightmare fuel up with your team for each dungeon. Then it spite noopes you and expects you to think it for that challenge. The hell? No. Again, as I just said, this game's not hard. It's just random. It's RNG, baby. And random does not reward skill. It doesn't make me want to come back and attack it again just because this game's like, you're going to miss 5 times in a row. Fuck you, because that's why. You need to die, and you get your squad wipe achievement. And it's like, but game, I did all the things. You're just like, aha, screw you. So at the end of the day, Vinstone does not reward such bullshittery. It's not horrible because it is a turn-based strategy type game, and it's right up there with XCOM 2 when I was like, of the ones I hate the least, it's not going to change your mind about this genre, but, if your significant other's like, we want this game, it's like, you might be able to find some amount of joy in it. Not completely busted, but not that great. I'm gonna give it 2.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there is certainly a random element here, but I disagree with the assessment that it requires no skill.
It's
because
okay
party composition is a big thing. Skill, inventory, all that micromanaging stuff that people who don't like RPGs usually don't really gravitate to. But there is strategy here, and I've only lost 2 people the entire time, and I have like 6 level 3 guys now. So maybe I'm just a idiot savant at this game.
No, I'm just hearing Skylake has a bug.
Hacks. No, but this game really does. This game scratches a lot of edges for me. I mean, it's got the dungeon crawling. It's got the Lovecraftian horror. It's got the Gygax level difficulty of fuck you. You're some nobody who's going into some random ruin. Get ready to get your ass killed. Check. I love it. And you gotta love the type of emergent narrative that comes from games like these, like your XCOMs and your FTLs, where you get attached to your little guys, and as they're dying, you are genuinely concerned because you put a lot of time and effort into them, and you want them to survive. The rule system I like because it's really simple, but it's very deep. A small gripe is that they don't actually really well explain everything. You're sort of left to figure it out on your own. All the information is actually there. It's just not spoon-fed to you, which when you're trying to learn a rule system for an RPG,
oh yeah, man,
you kind of want a small degree of that just to smooth it in. What did you say?
Like the turns. I mean, there's a button to hold down to like, that's how many turns I have left, because that's kind of random.
Not really.
Yeah, really. Sometimes you get 4, sometimes you get 2.
I mean, the game does reward you for trying multiple combinations and stuff, and different dungeons or different areas do require a different strategy. You can't just go in with the same guys over and over again, because that's a very easy way to get your ass killed, as I had determined. I would love to have something like this on my Android tablet, but I don't think I'd ever leave the bathroom if that thing were to come to pass. And here's how you survive as long as I did without losing people. 2 healers in your party. Just bring them along. They have the 2 front guys handle attacks. Everything else is just healing them and keeping your guys alive. I love this game. It's like crack to me, and it really makes me want to go roll a bunch of Dungeon Crawl Classics characters to run through a funnel. I'll give it 4 chairs.
Yeah. Well, as is tradition on my case, prepare for the mechanics spiel. Darkest Dungeon... Shut up, Jordan. See what you did? Darkest Dungeon feels to me like the natural evolution of the roguelike genre. Its turn-based has randomly generated dungeons, randomly generated characters with randomly assigned combat skills. But then it also takes elements from XCOM. You have a party of characters, character and skill progression, unlockables, and a limited equipment distribution. Outside of the armor and the weapon your characters use, you only have 2 extra slots that you can assign equipment to. Now, Darkest Dungeon is heavily reliant on its mechanics, and both the aesthetics and the narrative accommodate those mechanics perfectly. They should, by any stretch of the imagination, be a 4-chair game for me. But it isn't. This is the kind of game that tries very hard to give you the all-important sense of immersion, and it succeeds. From the dark theme to the aesthetics to the healthy and heavy dose of atmosphere that those convey. Also, bonus points for the Lovecraftian themes. Until that nasty map bug literally stops you from progressing. The only way you have to work around it is to stop playing and return to the main menu, or sometimes having to actually quit the game and come back in. That kills any and all immersion that you may have had up to that point. Whenever that bug hit me, I didn't feel like going back in the game at all, because at that point I was out of the experience. It killed it for me, quite literally. So why would I bother? Just to have to do it again by the time I started the next dungeon? Yeah, no. 3 chairs.
All right, so that's 3 chairs for fun. And if we tally this up, this game gets what I feel is a very well-deserved 3 chairs. It's not quite 4, but I'd give it 3 chairs in an asteroid. We don't have the little asteroid thing queued up. Gentlemen, final thoughts.
I like Darkest Dungeon. I like it as much as I do Doom the Roguelike, Dungeons of Dreadmore, and XCOM Enemy Within. But none of those games force you to restart whenever you go into a mission/dungeon in hopes it'll sort out a stupid bug which literally impedes your ability to progress. Consider my score 4 chairs across the board at the moment this bug is fixed, and the definite recommendation that comes with it. Should, this particular genre be your cup of tea?
Well, like I said, the game's quirky. That kept me more entertained because I genuinely got killed by a sick drum solo. That actually happened as opposed to me killing a drum circle, which may have also happened. We're not talking about that. But after thinking about it, I mean, this is RNG, the game. So I don't have that hit the button cocaine reward system with this game that Jordan does.
Yeah, see, I grew up playing a lot of games involving this little guy here. It's a D20, and you end up missing a lot of your attacks, so that doesn't really bother me with all the random missing and whatnot. Not so much as XCOM, where it's like 80% miss, 80% miss, 80%. But oh man, this game has cracked me. I love it. It's quite literally scratches all my itches. It is. I wouldn't say this is a perfect game by any means, but it's certainly a very, very good game, and I highly recommend you pick it up, even at full price. I'd say it's worth it. But coming up next week. Yeah. Well, I haven't run into the map bug, but yes, they should definitely fix that. But coming up next, we discuss the pros and cons in FGLRX, and I recount a fun story about my experiences installing it today.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the hate mail. Yes, indeed. And we actually do have some hate mail this week. If you don't know how to get in touch with us, what are you doing with your life? Seriously, LinuxGameCast.com, contact button, fill the form. It's easy. Or you can also leave a comment on YouTube, Google+, Facebook, Twitter.
Patreon.
Wherever you want, really. Yeah, Patreon. That'll work too.
Our diaspora page is still up for some reason.
I'm not saying Patreon comments get priority, but they totally get priority.
They totally do. In any case, we do actually have some hate mail this week because
the first one is from Hannah Lodge, and this person says, "Nice show, guys."
Nice show. What the hell? Couldn't have cut me any deeper.
That's uncalled for.
That's
Please,
mean.
Yeah, I do think you might have mentioned a very important detail on the Tomb Raider release, that being the problems with using AMD graphics cards. No support except for Mesa open source drivers. No AMD driver is supported except for the Mesa open source crap. It does seem to run on the newer Tonga and up AMD cards, even without support. I imagine it's because of the high and OpenGL support 4.5 on the AMD Catalyst drivers. FGLRX, forget about the AMD GPU Pro drivers. No joy there. And that's true. There is no joy when you're running AMD GPU, because AMD hasn't really been supporting that driver all that much, except on Ubuntu 14.04 if you want Vulkan support. but consider this, Hannah Lodge. From the developer standpoint, I can support FGLRX, which is busted to high hell. It may have the higher OpenGL compliance
and deprecated,
but it doesn't really work. Or I can support Mesa, where the performance sucks, but at least can make with the OpenGL on kernels newer than 2.2.24. Plus, if you run into any real driver issues, you can just submit a patch and get that fixed upstream and fix it forever. Mesa has a lot of advantages over FGLRX, aside from the performance. And like, if you give a layperson a Radeon card and tell them, like, if you're not using the Ubuntu, press X to install PPA, whatever, and you say install FGLRX, I had to coach my roommate through doing that, because he wanted to play Minecraft. He wanted to set up Minecraft on like his server box that has like an AMD GPU in there, so that his friend could play his Minecraft game on their Minecraft server, right? Mm-hmm. Oh my god, this took like the better part of an hour, and it didn't end up working with their official CentOS installer, because I don't fucking know. Versus, okay, I said, okay, just install Mesa, run Feed the Beast, which is the Minecraft mod they're playing, and it worked.
Yep. And one little thing I'd like to point out about this particular bit of hate mail is we did mention that Tomb Raider was supporting Mesa the week before. It was actually something that we were very happy to see, because the open source drivers are the only reliable way that you have of running an AMD GPU under Linux at this point. Yeah, sure, everyone's got some sort of horse that they're betting on when it comes to the AMD GPU.
Wait, no, wrong section.
Not that one, but yeah, it's the AMD GPU driver with the proprietary blob attached to it. Everyone seems to think that that's going to be the bee's knees or the cat's pajamas or whatever you want to call it. But at this point, it sucks.
Well, I mean, you definitely got to think about, I mean, what Farrell did was in the name of peace and sanity.
But it wasn't in the name of Batman.
Live long and prosper. Definitely, you got to think about that. I understand. I mean, Pedro, you're right. I mean, they're depreciated in 1604 LTS. I mean, just like it's even the Ubuntu, which we don't really love that much. Like, it's rubbish. I mean, the open source bit is going to give you a better chance at actually playing games that aren't based on, if you don't want to run a 2.4 kernel, like J-Man said. So,
one final point I'd like to add, though, is yes, the game probably will work with FGLRX because OpenGL is supposed to be this universal standard. If you are running an old enough kernel with old enough libraries and the old version of the GIMP help files, because if you get the new version, then the thing
you need those GIMP help files.
Period.
Well, I guess up next we need to talk about challenge golf.
I'm up for either.
This, Jack Nicholas, perfect golf. This needs to be a Patreon goal for all three of you to live stream. Here's the rules of the game outlined. Every time you land a ball in sand, giggity, water or rough, giggity, take a shot. All right. When one of you makes a goal, the other two have to take a shot. Okay.
I love scoring goals in golf.
And third is to quit the game before the others. You must chug a whole bottle of cherries. All right, you're an evil human being. I just want you to know about yourself. You lost me there. There are no winners, only survivors. And we are talking about the multiplayer Linux golfing game. Gentlemen, my only thoughts with this is to the streamers, to our Patreons. Do you really want to stream where we're all constantly trying to knock the little white ball into a hazard area to consume substances?
I mean, it could be very entertaining from the outside perspective, right? Just watching us completely get shit-faced.
I just have one issue. There's just one issue with this.
Here's the thing. You know how when you touch silver to a vampire, that vampire bursts into flames? Yeah, the same thing with Cherry Smirnoff and Ven. He's just allergic to that shit.
Yeah, that's my issue, because that is not available for sale anywhere in Portugal. I looked.
So you're stuck till the very end. That's just the only rule there.
I really cannot get my hands on any Cherry Smirnoff.
Get on that bombshell. Let's cue the music, because you can always find us around 9:30 Eastern Standard Moon Time. It's a bit brilliant. I'm Vinstone, cleverly disguised on the Twitternets at Vinstone plus Vinstone. On the G+, if you want to scream at me, I will do my best to scream back at you. And if I don't get immediately back, and if you have a serious question, sometimes I miss it because I open up G+. With almost 5,000 followers, I might miss it, so hit me up again if it's something important.
I'm Jordan Swung. You can find me suggestively eating bananas in everywhere but China on @TheBurningFool at Twitter, or plus Jordan Swung on Google+, because you can't get Google+ in China.
Well, you can't get Google in China, period. I am Pedro Mateos, a.k.a. Plagiarismo, a.k.a. the Summer Glau of Linux, because someone reminded me of that not too long ago. And you can always find me at Unaccounted4 on Twitter, or plus Pedro Mateos on Google+.
So, gentlemen, I think the one thing we did genuinely learn during this episode is Cherry Smirnoff is horrible, and we should only support Mike's Hard Lemonade.
I just prefer chugging cough syrup. Thank you very much.
Robo.
Yeah, no, I would drink Gold Jaeger at that point before.
Gold Jaeger? How's that work?
Gold Jaeger.
Golden Slugger?
No, what you do is you take a shot of Jaeger and then you smash your face in with the gold brick, right? So it's like a cheap Pan Galactic Gargle Blaster.
I like gold. Do you have a smoke and a pancake after?
I got a bong and a
Jaeger,
bong and a blintz. 5 dudes.